everyone, Bill Nichols here. I'm an Orange County photographer. Today I'm going to be looking at my technical camera medium format setup, which is an Arca Swiss PhaseOne IQ140, Arca Swiss ARM3DI, and a 5DS-R with their 24mm tilt shift lens. If you looked at my previous video, my 5DS-R unboxing, you know that I recently picked up the 5DS-R because I'm interested to see how it's going to do against my medium format. I've had some preliminary tests in the studio with headshots and it looks phenomenal. So in the studio it looks great, so I wanted to bring it out here in the field. I just chose a quick location with a building that I could get some shadow, some highlights on, and demonstrate a little bit of tilt, I mean not tilt, but shift functions of the lenses. So we'll start with the Arca Swiss ARM3DI. I'll take you through a little quick rundown of this camera. This is a technical camera. It's what it's called. So it's got a kind of a flat pancake style body. The lens on here is a Rodenstock lens and what's called an R mount. And that's a mount that's specific for this body. So the lens is mounted into this barrel type lens plate or lens board. And then it's put into this focusing assembly. This is called a helical focus. It rotates around. It rotates completely 360 degrees 5 times. So you can get incredibly sharp images. It's got the sensor here. This is a PhaseOne IQ140 sensor. It's a medium format back, 40 megapixels. The sensor is much larger than a DSLR, so the pixels are much larger, the photo sites, so they have better light gathering capability. Then this is the sync cable that goes from the lens port to the body. So when you go to take an image, you have to wake up the back by pressing one button, then you actually take your image with your shutter release here. This is completely manual, so you set your aperture down here with this slide. You set your timing from bulb, so being open as long as you hold it down, to 1/500th of a second, which is the fastest, and then you cock the spring with this down here. So to get started off, basically the way that you're going is that you frame your image, you set your lens, so if you're going to shoot it f11, f4, whatever, set your aperture, set your time, and then you're going to cock the shutter. Then you should have already had it in focus with your lens here, I mean with your helical focus. So really cool. This gives me outstanding images. One feature of this is that I can shift. So I have shift to move the sensor, and you can see this on the second camera. And I can move it vertically, and I can move it horizontally. So I already know with my testing between my Canon 5DS-R with the tilt shift lens and this Arca Swiss, one big advantage that this technical camera has is much larger movements, and it can shift in both the horizontal and the vertical plane all in the same image. Meaning that I can start down here and to the left, take an image, go back to center, take an image, shift back up, which is actually down in the picture, start on that side, take an image, come back to the same mark, take an image, come back up. And I can do these big multi-row, both vertically and horizontal stitching, images. So if I have something very large to capture, I can capture those in a truly, in a true way where everything's vertical, and just do my shifts and capture an image. So that's gonna be one disadvantage that I know right off the bat. Overall, I think that the 5DS-R will probably do okay. We'll find out when we take these images back. One thing that I'm concerned with is that the PhaseOne back has a massive amount of dynamic range, and I know that the 5DS-R has less dynamic range. And where that's going to affect me is when I'm editing this image, if I need to pull down highlights, so I need to recover highlights, or if I need to bring up the shadows to grab some detail out of the shadows, I think there's gonna be more noise on the Canon than the Arca Swiss in PhaseOne combo. So I will now jump to taking a few images. I'm only gonna take about 3 or 4 images here with each one. I don't wanna make the video too long, but I wanna get a few good images, run you through taking an image with the technical camera, throw the 5D on here. So on this camera, by the way, I have a 40mm lens. On the Canon, I have a 24. Those are gonna be very close considering the sensor sizes and what the relative crop factor will be. So that'll be pretty close. And I'm gonna have the tripod set up in just the same way on both of them. One thing when shooting architecture, shooting product photography, really any photography where you're using a tripod, you want a really, really stable base. So I'm using a Induro CT404, which is one of their big carbon tripods. It's a rock solid tripod. Then I have everything mounted on this Arca Swiss head. So the Arca Swiss head is a real specialist head, and it's geared, and I can dial in really precise movements. and it's rock solid. It doesn't move at all. So that's the number one thing that you want. Especially shooting architecture, you want to make sure that you have a good level camera so that all of your verticals are vertical. They don't end up converging, or the image doesn't look like it's laying back. There's not a keystone effect. So you start out with a vertical, with a completely level base, and start shooting your images from there. So now I'll take a few images with the Arca Swiss and the PhaseOne combo. The first thing that I have to do with this is I need to get my focus right, and I don't have a live view or a viewfinder like I do on a DSLR. So this is a two-step process. To get started, I use a Leica distometer, which is a laser rangefinder. And this is I'm going to point this at the image from at the place that I'm photographing, from about the place where the sensor is, and get a distance from here to my subject. And on this, I already did this earlier, I know that it's 120 feet. And then I have a focus card. You can see it, and this has, for this particular lens, at f5.6, it tells me what the distance is to be in focus and where I need to turn my helical focus here. So I don't know if we can see it on here, but there are numbers on the helical focusing ring here, and they go from 0, which this is at 0 now, to 34, and then they go again and again and again. So at 120 feet, I know that at 100 feet I need to be at 0.8. At 150 feet I need to be at 0.5. It's a very little adjustment. It's right there, just halfway in. Now this should be in focus, especially I'm going to be shooting at f11, so I should get some really good depth of field here. Let's go ahead and take our first image. My PhaseOne, the native ISO, is ISO 50. I will set the back to ISO 50. I'm going to be shooting at f11. I'm going to guess that we're going to be at about 125th to 1/250th of a second. Let's take a look. So can we see this here? So for the PhaseOne, I'm just going to go to ISO, make sure that's on 50. It is. And that's really it. The image will come up here. This is one great thing about the PhaseOne back. It's got an amazing screen on it. It's a huge touch screen. It's very high quality. I can punch in really deep in to see if the focus is in. It does a virtual focus mask on it, where it colors everything green that's in focus. It does a highlight mask where I can see the exposure mask and see what's overexposure. And you'll see that as I take these images. So I'm going to set the lens now to f11. And you can actually, let's see if we can see this on there. Yeah, so you can see the aperture getting larger and smaller here as I stop down or go wide open. So I'm going to go to f11, close my shutter. I'm going to go to 125th of a second and cock the spring here. That's ready to go. So two-step process on here. And like I said, I don't have a viewfinder, so I'm getting a general idea of where I want to shoot, and then I'll fine-tune it. So I wake up the back with this button, and I take the image. Now it'll pop up. So there's the first image. So this is great. I can see what's in focus, and really the entire building is in focus here. So you can see that from the green going from the trees right here all the way to the back. Nothing is really overexposed with the exception of just the front corner of this building here. So right here where the red is, that's a little bit overexposed. The histogram looks great. So if I punch into this image now, I can see if I'm in focus or not. I can verify it, just by punching in, even though I saw it on the green focus mask. It looks great. So that's the first image. Now this brings up the example of why you would want to shift an image. So I just moved this, and that's fine. We'll take a second image. But you can see here where I am set at 0. I'm not set at 0 here. But as far as vertically, I'm set at 0, and I have a lot of the parking lot, but I'm cutting off the top of that tree, and I'm just over at the top of the building, but I don't really have a great image. Now, traditionally, I could take that camera, right, and I could point it up, and I could take the image, and I would get everything because it's a wide-angle lens. But if you think about the way a lens is curved, so as I tilt it up, the bottom, curved part of the lens is where the image is coming in through, and that's going to make everything lean back, or it's going to make those parallels, the verticals come in here instead of being parallel. And then I can correct that in a Lightroom with a lens correction, but as I correct stuff here, stuff on the outside gets distorted, it's just not true. And if I want to have multiple images that I want to stitch, the best way to do this is to make sure that I'm level here, take my base image, then I will just simply shift the camera so that the sensor moves, and that will move the entire image up or down. And I'll show you that on the Canon in live view, but on here, we can see it with each image. So let's take one more really quick. I'm just gonna cock it, wake it up, take it. Okay, there we go, same thing. So now you can see a little bit of overexposure. You can also see that I'm not getting the right side of the building. So I'm gonna move this back to where it was. Take one more image. Nope, let's come back a little. And I can actually see quite a bit of it's overexposed now. There we go. So now I've got the whole building. I've got the parking lot. I'm cutting off the top of the tree. This is a bit overexposed. Now I know that on my PhaseOne I can just pull that down, but I can also go and see what we look like at a 2/50th. So now this looks great. I've got some detail in the shadows. Nothing is blown out in the highlights. I've got the building pretty well centered, which maybe I would or wouldn't do on a regular shoot. I've got the parking lot here. Now I want to get more of the building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this by bringing my sensor. As I bring my sensor down, that's going to actually bring the building up in the image. So I'm going to shift about 12.5 millimeters, and you'll see the difference with the next image that's taken. Whoop. So there we go. So now you can see the focus, the green, and let me just turn that off. Now I've got just a little bit of the parking lot, but I've got a lot more sky. I've got the entire building. I've got that entire tree. I can now take these two images and just stack them on top of each other in Photoshop, or even in Lightroom, which I won't use Lightroom with this, I'd use Capture One, but I can export those, go into Photoshop, tell it to merge them, and it's not gonna have to do any geometric correction or anything. It's gonna put them right together and just merge them. You can even just take these in Photoshop, line them right up, and they will line up perfectly as long as you're level here. So that looks great. The detail on this image is really great. So this is the nice thing about my PhaseOne back, is that I can just scroll around and it redraws it, gives me a 100% view, and I can just go. I mean, this is a fantastic touchscreen. It's probably the best touchscreen that I've seen on any back. I know that the new Hasselblad H6D also has a touchscreen. I think it's probably very similar, but for the longest time, PhaseOne nailed the market with medium format and touchscreens. So that looks like a great image. I'm happy with that. I'm just gonna take these two. Now I'm gonna switch over to the Canon 5DS-R, show you some advantages with it, and then we'll shoot with it, and then we'll compare the two images, the two sets of images back in my office. And we're back. I removed the PhaseOne Arca Swiss combo. I've now put the Canon 5DS-R on here. So I'll run through my setup really quick with the Canon. I've got a Canon 5DS-R. I have a really Right Stuff L bracket on here. This bracket is great. It goes on the BGE11 grip, and it comes around, and what this does is this has an Arca Swiss mounting plate here, it has one here, so I can just switch from here to here vertically very quickly and get, and it's just a rock solid plate. It doesn't flex at all. On the camera, I have the Canon 24mm tilt shift, and then the shade. Normally when I'm out here shooting architecture, I would have a shutter release with me. Today for this, I will just set it on to 2 seconds for an exposure so that my hands aren't on it. It'll take the image and then we'll adjust it from there. So to start off, I'm going to set this at f11, ISO 100. And my PhaseOne was set at ISO 50, 250th of a second. We're gonna be at ISO 100, that's a stop faster. Same aperture, f11. So I'll start out at 1/500th of a second. I'm just gonna shoot in manual. So f11, 1/500th of a second. This should be pretty close. A quick rundown on how the Canon tilt shift works. You can see that there's these knobs here, and then if I rotate this part around, let me get to it. See that there are these knobs for tilt. Today we're not gonna deal with tilt. I'll do a different video about using a tilt shift lens and how to really get the most out of it, why you would want to use it, what scenarios you can use it for, and what effects you can get with it. For today, we're just dealing with shift. We want to move the image up and down so that we capture the entire image. That's it. So on the Canon here, we've got the tilt and the shift. So this is shift, shifting is up and down, or I can rotate this and I can go horizontal, back and forth. Like I said on the PhaseOne, the Arca Swiss Arm 3DI, I can do both vertical and horizontal in the same image. On the Canon, I get one axis. So I can move up and down vertically, and I think that it's 12.5 or 15 millimeters of shift. I'll have to look it up and verify. Or I can move horizontally by rotating the lens, and then that shift plane moves. That is a disadvantage to the Arca Swiss. There are times where I use it to go in both directions. So like I said, I can do multi-row stitching. On the Canon, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So let's go here. This is a 100% manual focus lens, but unlike the PhaseOne where I had to measure, focus, then check it, we'll just throw it on live view. Go to something that's sharp, like probably the sign there where it says medical group, or up at the top where it says the address, the 15375. We'll make sure that that's in focus. Then I know at f11 that my depth of field is enough that I'm gonna have the entire building to this front tree in focus at least. So let's run through that really quick. So we'll go into live view. You can see right now at f11 at 1/500th, this might not be enough. So let's, for the purpose of focusing, let's go down to 1/100th of a second. I can see that I'm way out of focus. So I'll just kind of eyeball it here. And then punch in to my focus. So I can punch in at 10x, so if you can see that there. I'm gonna get about the same image that I had before. So I'm gonna move down here. I see the sign, it's a little bit soft, and right there, it looks pretty sharp. We'll pull back out, and you can see that the field of view that I have here, where I have a lot of the parking lot, just about the top of the tree is cut off, and the building I have a little bit above it. I get a slightly wider field of view with this 24 on here than I did with the 40 on the PhaseOne. Different aspect ratios. The sensors are a different actual aspect ratio, but pretty close here. So let's go ahead and we'll take one image. So this actually looks pretty good. So I'm at 125th at ISO 100 f11. So you can see I've got a good image. A lot of the parking lot, little tiny bit of the tree is cut off and just at the top of the building. Now let's go back at a live view. And this is where you can really see what shift does. So on the Canon, if I bring the shift up or down, you'll be able to see the image. There we go. I'm gonna retake both of them. But you'll see the image in the screen over here actually move. And you can see right here with the lens, as I'm pointing, watch the lens hood here. You'll see the lens hood move up and down because the lens is moving. So that is it. So unlike if I was to grab my camera and tilt to get more, you can see how the sensor, not the sensor itself, but virtually the sensor is moving because the front of the lens element is moving. And I'm just moving up and down. I'm not moving the camera. You see how it goes perfectly straight up and down? So everything matches. So if I take an image here, I move it, take another image, come up here and take another image, I get 3 images that are gonna line up perfectly. So let's start here again at 0. Take this image one more time. I may have moved the focus, so I'm going to check it again. Focus doesn't look great right now. That looks pretty good. Let's hop over to some windows. And that looks pretty sharp. That looks nice. Right there. I'm going to lock the tripod down so I don't move it at all. Set my timer to 2 seconds. This is just so my hands are off. There's the first image. See it pop up here on the preview. So you can see here where I've got a lot of the parking lot. And I'm just barely cutting off this tree and I have a little bit of the image. I'd like to scoot this up so I have less of the parking lot and more around the building, make it a bit more interesting. So let's go ahead and go back into live view. And I will shift this. As you can see on the live view, now the image is coming down. That looks good right there. It's gonna still be in focus because all I'm doing is just moving it back. I'm not moving it back and forth. I'm not rotating, nothing. So everything's gonna be in focus just like it was. Now, the truth is, in this image, I wouldn't normally have to shift and take multiple images. I could just take this one image right here because this looks pretty good where I've got a little bit of the foreground here. I've got the building, a lot of sky. So that would be fine. But still, with where my tripod is, if I wanted to capture the entire image with my tripod at this height, I would have had to have scaled it back. Then I would have had it not, the verticals would not have been parallel. It would have been distorted. So I could just take this one image with this amount of shift and it would be fine. So there you go. So let's look here. So now you can see on the lens, you can see how it's not lined up here and how shifting wise, where this marker is, I am about 2/3 of the way to the top. I could shift even more. I don't need to. I think that looks pretty good. So thanks for watching me out here taking this image. I'm going to go back to my office now. I'm going to download the images. We really only got 2 per camera. I'll show you how they stitch. But more importantly, I'm going to take a look at them side by side in Capture One and see what the detail is like between the PhaseOne and the Canon, and then see how I think there's going to be quite a bit of noise introduced in shadows with the Canon that I know there's not going to be on the PhaseOne. Let's go take a look. I might be surprised. I know in the portrait world in the studio, I can confidently say that the Canon stacks up just really nice right up against the PhaseOne. I was astounded by the images that I got yesterday during a headshot shoot, and I'll show those on another video. So let's head back in the office and take a look at some images.